Ba, 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 ba. Hello, hello. So, welcome back to a more spooky Saturdays. So, I'm excited for this one. So, today, because we are reading two stories from Let's Not Meet and Ghost Stories, I figured I'd just combine the two because I think it'd be fun. It'll be interesting. So, I already found the stories in advance, so it should go much smoother. Instead of just like, oh, let's just find while I'm recording the video. So I already have them ready and prepared. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Spooky Saturdays. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first we're gonna start from two stories with Let's Not Meet. You probably can kind of see what I'm going to be reading up here anyway, so it's fine. It's fine if you see the kind of a bit of the titles. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I'll stretch my back. Okay, so let's start with the first story that I found. All of them are, well, I should probably state that all of them are a tad bit short. So but this is the first story that I found. I kind of like skimmed all of them a little bit, but I still don't know like overall entirely what's it about. So I usually like to give them a little scanneroo first. That's just usually how I am. Do a little skimming. But anyways, let's read this first story. A man with dead, empty eyes. Alright. This happened to me last night. I am a bartender. I have been working in the industry for several years. The bar I work in is a hole in a wall. Think the old show Cheers. We have a lot of regulars that come in. It's the biggest population of customers, although we do get people that are new as well, but this specific person was different. This man came in later in the evening, and the bar was pretty empty. I didn't think too much about it, because like I mentioned, this happens. Everything was fine until my coworkers had finished up their work and were heading out for the night. The second they left, the vibe immediately changed. I began to feel kind of anxious out of nowhere. So I tried to start up some small talk and ease the weird vibe in the room. When I tried to talk, this man was like a stone wall. He would barely change his gaze from whatever he was staring at and not speak. As I was cleaning up around the bar, we made eye contact, and the feeling I got when I looked at him was intense. His eyes looked empty, like a shark or something. It was like there was nobody behind them, dead looking. After that, I started getting what I thought at the time were irrational thoughts. I started thinking about how to share that I have a baby daughter at home waiting for me, or things I could say to make him see me as a person. Mind you, in several years of bartending, my mind has never raced like this. I started panicking internally about how I managed to lock all of the doors and ensure he was out of the building. I felt crazy with all of these seemingly dramatic racing thoughts. The feeling became overwhelming, and it got to a point where my entire midsection was buzzing with anxiety. This felt weird because the dude literally did not do anything threatening. It was all coming from my gut. For some reason, I started worrying about the time, and I felt like I had to do something fast. I had a friend call the bar phone and ask if we were open, which I replied, "Yes, we're open," and ended the phone call with, "See you soon." 4 minutes later, this man finished his drink and was out the door. The friend who called still came up to make sure everything was okay, and I didn't have to leave alone. But I generally feel that having my friend call the bar could be the reason I'm here typing this today. I have never felt such strong feeling of impending doom. It felt like I knew something bad was coming and I needed to fix it fast. Always, always, always trust your gut. I am so glad I did. I'm still getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's true. You always want to listen to your instinct. Your instinct is pretty much always right. So if you get some weird vibes, you know, like, it doesn't even have to remotely normally be something like this, but especially if it is something like this, if you just feel really uncomfortable, like feelings of just, you know, like what we said, just anxiety and, you know, just very, very, very strong and intense feelings, then, you know, maybe like come up with something, you know, to get away from that person safely. Because I've said this many, many times in all of these videos, be careful at who you trust, because you don't know how anyone is going to be. And of course, I understand not everybody is going to be, you know, a bad, awful person. But, like, everyone you meet is not going to be an awful, terrible person. And then there's going to be people who's going to be a terrible person, or just straight up, like, really creepy, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm glad this person's okay, but oh man, this is a pretty freaky experience. Like, I mean, if it goes the whole thing of just overthinking and being paranoid, you know, yeah, I get that, you know, sometimes you do that, but there is cases where it's like stuff like this, like, you're just not being paranoid, like you could always just sense the vibes of the person, like it is kind of hard to tell, you know, like online and all that stuff, but like in person you can usually tell if there's something like wrong or off. But yeah. So that was a man with dead, empty eyes. And always remember, guys, be safe out there. You know, always have someone you can trust to call in case if you're in a weird, creepy situation. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. All right. So this is we were being watched by someone. This is also kind of a short one. But with a little skimming, I thought this was pretty interesting. And yeah, let's get started. Hello. First of all, sorry for my bad English. I'm not a native speaker. That's okay. The story happened to me and a friend of mine 2 months ago. It is pretty short. A bit of context, me and my friend often like to smoke one in the middle of the night in this valley, and usually is pretty chill. But this time I thought we would walk to our local football field, which is in the middle of the woods. As we began to walk towards the forest, we had already heard something whisper behind us, and in general felt like being followed and watched, but we thought nothing of it. As we set foot in the football field area, we sat on a bench around 150 meters away from the field. In front of us were a lot of bushes and small trees. I already felt a bit uneasy because there were no lights. It was almost pitch black. But my friend said he he was here already and it's safe and no one lives around here. So we got back to talking and smoking. After around 10 minutes, we heard like a silent screech. Keep in mind it was 10 minutes later, so we didn't feel anything from smoking. We just looked at each other and were completely silent. A few seconds passed and there was another screech, this time way closer and louder. The motion detector 10 meters away went on. I was already standing ready to leave or run away from whatever this was. But my friend stupid, like he is calling out something like fuck off. Right after he did, we heard more screeching and movement behind the bushes, and we were both frozen in fear. As I stood there in the motion detector was giving off a small amount of light which allowed me to see a little bit. And I saw 2 legs behind the bushes, gray dirty jeans and black boots. And on the side of the leg was, I don't know how to describe it, like a long knife. As soon as I saw it, I grabbed my friend and began sprinting back to the village. On the next day, we walked back to check it out if we had just confused something with wood or something. But as we pulled up, there were 2 cops standing there that said we needed to turn around. We didn't ask anything. We just turned and drove off. To this day, we don't know who it was or what he had planned for us. Oh man. Oh, that's just really freaking creepy, dude. Like, you're just trying to chill, have a good smoke with the friends and shit, and then just like creepy guy. Like, oh, long knife. I can think of something along the lines of probably like a machete or something. Like if it was, I don't know, like fucking Jason or something. But like, man, I'm just so glad that they left, and they did, because who knows what would have happened. And most likely, like if the cops were around, they could have been like just not even like meters away from, like, maybe they just, but they didn't know that there was like considering that he had, well, I'm assuming it's probably like some kind of machete. It could have been like some murder that happened there, and they didn't know about it. Or there was, like, I don't know, man. I mean, as much as, chilling, walking around, at night, it's, sounds really nice, relaxing and everything, and then this shit happens. So I said it before, I'm gonna say it again, I'm gonna keep saying it. Like if you're, like, be careful walking around, always, check your surroundings, like, always have your guard up wherever you're walking, even like in a public park. Okay, like especially like those like a big metro park or something, and you're in a spot where there isn't that many people, like, always guard up every time. You never know. Here, like a pepper spray or something. Because you never know what... You never know. Again, you know, again, back to like the whole, like, oh, you're just being paranoid. No, I'm being safe and cautious. Because you never know what's gonna happen. You could encounter like just some weird person just looking at you, even just following you like from a little bit of a distance. Don't do anything. They're just like just watching and following you. Or it could run to something like this with some fucking dude with a goddamn machete. You never know. And plus the thing is, like if you're not paying attention and like there's a person that's just that's like following you and shit, they could follow you home. Like you'd never know. I'm just saying. Always gotta be safe. Gotta be safe out in the world, and you gotta be safe on the internet. Like, there's cool stuff out there, but there's also dangerous stuff out there, so it's like, but, and also just like, with like the motion sensor lights, like, that just makes it so much creepier, because like, you're just sitting there, and then in the distance, you see these motion lights come on, and it's not an animal or anything like that. It's a fucking person, and they're just watching. And I'm like, oh, hell no. That is... And also, like... Look, you can't agree with this. Like, don't do anything like this, you know, in the middle of the night, you know. Like, you see some person just staring at you, don't shout at them. It's gonna garner their attention so much more. Like, just walk away. Just walk away. Fuck it, run away. But like, either or. But. But I'm glad these people are okay. And that's what matters. So, yes. Careful about your surroundings, especially at night. And yeah. Alright. So, now let's move on to the next one. Well, next two, actually. It's a two-parter, and we're gonna get into ghostly encounters. So, yeah. Let's move on to the next story. Okay. So like I said, this is a two-parter. There's a I also don't think there's gonna be a third part, because I think the next one said like, oh, this is the final. So yeah, let's start with part 1. The Haunting Factory 13. Part 1. The eeriness of the workplace sometimes must be faced. The terror of another dimension occasionally brings forth terrifying creatures. Let me begin with a true story that I experienced while working in a factory. That sound again. Even though I had heard it before, I was still startled and turned to the door, even though I knew it was still closed. The sound of a broom brushing against the floor, sweeping away dust and dirt, cleaning. The sound might seem ordinary during the day, but it's a different story when it's heard in the middle of the night like this. The sound got closer and closer, heading towards the warehouse door where I was trying to sleep. Slowly, I got up from my lying position and sat against the wall. The warehouse was very dark because I deliberately did not turn on the lights, relying only on the faint, eerie glow of the outside light seeping through the glass window. As before, initially there was only the sound of a broom brushing against the floor. But as the owner of the sound seemed to get closer, another sound began to be heard. Yes, I started to hear footsteps, one step at a time. The footsteps sounded like someone was wearing rubber sandals, creating a distinctive sound when they touched the cement floor. Kitiplick, kitiplick, kitiplick. Something like that. The steps were very slow, as was the sweeping. Of course, I was very tense and scared listening to it. The cold village air felt even colder, a chill creeping into my bones. That woman used to work here, a cleaner. She worked here for a long time, decades, until she finally died 10 years ago. They say that friends who often work at night still see her cleaning, sweeping, wiping, mopping. So scary. Sean's long sentences echoed in my mind. Sean was a friend who also worked at the company. He had been working here for a long time, while I had been here for about 3 months. Sean told stories about the sightings that often occurred in the factory, one of which was the ghost of this woman, who I seemed to be hearing sweeping in front of the warehouse, a woman who has been dead for a long time. I kept sharpening my hearing, trying to catch the continuous sound. The sound of the broom and the footsteps became clearer, more unnerving with each passing second. The next moment, another sound, which I never heard before and was truly horrifying, began to emerge. It was a woman's voice, murmuring indistinctively, interspersed and with suppressed, almost manic laughter. Oh God, I was so scared. It was incredibly terrifying. I pressed myself further into the corner of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. Watching the door and window, I was sure that the figure would come from the right side, passing the door before reaching the window. It was very close, and I estimated it would reach the front of the warehouse in a few seconds. Indeed, from a small gap under the door, I finally saw something. Along with the terrifying sounds through the small gap, I could see something moving. Slow steps, and occasionally I could see the broom sweeping. The figure of the woman was right in front of my door. Her murmuring became clearer, with occasional giggles that sent shivers down my spine. I was paralyzed with fear, and daring to move an inch. My fear escalated when I saw her suddenly stop, walking and standing still. Yes, the woman was now standing in front of the door. Silence dominated, enveloping the cold air with a suffocating dread. In the silence, I wondered what would happen next. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. The woman knocked on the door. Cold sweat poured down, and I curled up further in the corner of the room. Knock, knock, knock. The knock was heard again. No, I had no intention of opening a door. No courage to do so. Prayers flowed haltingly in my heart, desperately needing his help at the moment. Only 2 knocks, then silence returned. It lasted for several tens of seconds. Not long after, the woman began to move again, stepping towards the left, toward the glass window right next to the door. The window was quite large, about 2 by 1 meter extending. Through this window, everything outside the warehouse could be seen clearly, unobstructed. With that movement, I was very sure that soon she would walk in front of the window, and I would be able to see her clearly. Once again, my guess was right. I finally saw her figure. An old woman with long, matted hair tied back in a bun, dressed in dark, tattered clothes. Although I could see her from the waist up, it was clear that she was walking while holding a broom. Murmurs and low, almost inhuman giggles accompanied her movements. I was transfixed, staring at the terrifying figure. Time seemed to move very slowly as she walked in front of the window, until finally she was no longer visible. My view blocked by the wall, she was no longer in front of the glass window. Still silent, I waited in the stillness, anxiously anticipating what would happen next. Nothing happened. No sounds, no movements. At this moment, my courage began to rise. Slowly, I stood up and walked towards the door. From the door, I peeked out the glass window briefly, checking outside, worried that the figure of the woman might still be there. But she wasn't. There was nothing. Only the empty machine room in view. The next second, I immediately opened the door and ran outside without looking left or right, leaving the warehouse towards the factory door at the far opposite end. Without looking around, I kept running through rows of machines and factory equipment. My only goal was the security post at the front gate. "Hey, Thomas, what's wrong with you?" Mr. Jean, the factory security guard on duty, greeted me when I arrived at this post. Catching my breath, I started to tell him everything, the terrifying event that I had just experienced. Okay, so before I give my whole thoughts, let us move on to part 2. After graduating from vocational high school in 2001, I had to find a job immediately since college wasn't an option due to financial constraints. I figured I'd save up and continue my studies later on. Luckily, my job hunt lasted only 6 months. A neighbor tipped me off about a textile company in the small town looking for machine operators. Given my background in mechanical engineering, I decided to go for it. The company had been around since the 1970s, and you can tell from the old buildings at the edge of the city. Thanks to a good word from my neighbor, I was hired quickly without much fuss, initially assisting machine operators to get hands-on training. The owner was kind and offered temporary accommodation in the warehouse until I found a place. For about 6 months, the warehouse became my home. It was in a large building filled with textile machines. I had to share the space with equipment and materials. It wasn't ideal, but I was grateful. However, the factory had a reputation for being haunted. My colleagues shared many spooky stories about the place. One recurring tale was about a ghostly woman who continued her cleaning duties even after death. Sean, a co-worker, warned me, "Be careful at night, lock the door, and stay inside until morning." During these 6 months, I had several eerie experiences, but I managed by following Sean's advice. I slept on a makeshift bed of cardboard, later upgraded to a carpet with a pillow and blanket, making it somewhat comfortable. I'd always turn off the warehouse lights at night, relying on the dim light outside. One night, a particularly terrifying event occurred that made me resolve to find a new place to live. Here's how it went. I was in the security post until late, and around 10 p.m. I headed back to the warehouse. The factory was dark and eerily quiet as I walked through it. I reached the warehouse, locked the door, and went to sleep. Suddenly, I was awakened by a blinding light. The warehouse lights were all on, and the door, which I was sure I had locked, was wide open. The entire factory was lit up, and I saw people working as if it was a regular shift. Confused, I got up and saw a man in the factory uniform enter the warehouse. "Is there a night shift?" I asked, but he didn't respond and soon left. I followed him outside where I saw more people working, but then I realized something horrifying. Their bodies had started to blacken, as if burned, yet they continued working. Terrified, I watched as they turned to face me, and one headless figure began walking towards me. Paralyzed with fear, I prayed for safety. Suddenly, the factory lights went out, plunging everything into darkness. But the figures were still there, watching me. In a panic, I managed to move and ran straight to the security post, not looking back. That night marked the end of my stay in the warehouse. The next day, I decided to find a place of my own. Ooh. Damn. Oh, right. So that was both parts of the haunting factory. Very, very interesting. Very freaky too. The thing is like, for them to be just so vivid like that, there has to be so much energy in this warehouse. Like the energy of it must be just like boom, for them to just like what, okay, like with the cleaning lady, for it to like last that long. But then again, to be fair, the way it was written, it probably lasted much shorter than like how it was written. And so, you know, because typically when something's written, it feels like it's, longer than what it actually is. But so in reality, it probably lasted around probably a couple seconds, because like for a spirit to even remotely be active for so long, there has to be so much energy built up, because for them to like do something or show themselves, like that takes a lot of energy. And I, okay, I know this is gonna sound really, really weird, okay, but I kind of want to, I want to kind of experience something like this, because here's the thing. When it comes to spirits, like, that's funny, I heard it. I don't think you heard it, but I heard it on tap. But anyways, besides the point, like when it comes to like with spirits, like, yeah, they'll be, like, depending on what's happening, it might be like kind of like a little unsettling, and a little like, ooh, okay, what the hell? But honestly, they're not as scary as people make out to be. That's just me personally. But with this guy, like, especially if you've never experienced anything like this before, this has to be absolutely fucking terrifying. Like, you're just trying to sleep, the owner was kind enough to let you sleep in the warehouse while you find a place of your own, which, that's awesome. Props to the owner for being that much of a homie. Like, to just try to sleep, and then you're just hearing noises, like, very clearly, and also seeing things like so vividly. That's just like especially like, if you just, I mean, even if you have experience, like if you had encounters like something like this, is just absolutely startling, you know. And if you've never experienced this, like anything this, fucking terrifying. Like, so I totally get, you know, like, bitch, I'm out of here. I'm finding my own place. I mean, considering that that he's been there for 6 months, I hope, like, hoping he has enough money to get like a good, decent place and survive. but it's just like, damn, this shit is this shit is gonna be freaky. And then my goofy ass is like, hold on, I'm gonna stay here, and I want to experience this shit because I'm a fucking weirdo. but man, like, that's crazy. Oh, and also I didn't show it, but in the part 1, actually, you know, like at the end when he was gonna go tell the security guard, this person responded as like they share the experiences with the security guard, but just brush it off. So okay, so here's the thing. So, like, when it comes, like, especially when it comes to like a haunted work location, like you're either gonna have people that's gonna experience, like generally, like, pretty much almost everybody will have at least some kind of experience. So you either have those who experience it and like really takes this stuff seriously and is just like, holy shit, I had this really weird encounter, let me tell you about it. And then you have those that's just like, whatever, just brush it off and just completely ignore it. You got your two sides when it comes to that kind of stuff. Me, I'm just like, I be in this other side where it's like, wow, I encountered something, let me tell you about it, it was pretty cool. Or, you know, be like, oh, it was a little freaky, kind of unsettling, but, you know, everything was great. But it's interesting because, like this, like, the security guard, you know, I'm sure the security guard has had encounters himself, but probably just brushes off as like whatever, because, like, especially if the security guard's been there for like a really long time, you know, like if you're in a haunted workplace, okay, and you've been there for like years, a long time, you're gonna get so used to it that it's just be like, whatever, there's nothing new. And then you're gonna have the, you know, but also, like, depends on the person. Because, you know, there'll probably be some, it's like, I've been here for X amount of years, and, you know, it still kind of unsettles me, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And then there's those who's like, I've been here for this amount of years, and I don't give a shit. You know, as long as you respect the dead, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. Which you should, by the way, because, you know, you should respect the dead. But yeah. So that was really cool, really interesting. Like these two different experiences, just wow. I'm imagining the energy of this factory, and also in part 2, it was interesting because, like, these figures, like, one of them had a head without a head, and then the rest was just like it looked like they've been burned. So, like, and of course, and then there's a separate incident with the cleaning lady where she, you know, like, she could have either, I mean, it didn't really specify if she passed away during her shift or, you know, passed away peacefully in her sleep at home. And she still believes, you know, like, oh, you know, I still gotta go to work, you know, clean, yeah. You know, there are some cases where, you know, it's like that, you know, or like they don't want to move on. They could still think that they're still like I guess quote unquote alive, and they're still doing their like day-to-day things, because they feel like they're what's the word I'm looking for? Close to the thing I'm talking about my head is like unfulfilled or unfinished business. That's what I was looking for. Unfinished business. They feel like they could have like unfinished business, so they're still doing their, day-to-day thing. This happens to some of them, and of course, there's also the other case with all those figures with the headless one and then the bird ones, and like if they died of unnatural causes in a location, a lot of the times they'll be stuck at that location because it was an unnatural cause of death. So they'll find it harder to move on. So ghost stuff is very fascinating to me. I like it. So, but I don't want to blah on any longer, so because I don't want to make this video too long. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Spooky Saturdays, mixing up a bit with some, let's not meet with alive people, and then combining it with stories of spirits. And I thought that'd be fun, cool to do, and I hope you guys liked it. So, yeah. If you guys liked what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I have a couple other spooky readings and videos, and I'll have the playlist linked at the end of the video. So, yeah. I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, and yeah. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.